Good morning, everyone. Got our agenda in front of us there. So we'll jump right in and take a look at some of the key capabilities. So the four that we're looking at there, it's built on the cloud, provides us a place for digital review. And because it is in the cloud, right, it's anytime, any place. Be it a mobile device or a laptop in a coffee shop, whatever the scenario. And then, of course, data exchange, right? Now that we're in the cloud, it's like sharing photos on your favorite, social media site, but except in this case, we're doing drawings. All right, so let me jump into sort of the nitty gritty here. So what is Autodesk Docs? Well, the idea is to stop looking back at how to fix things and look forward at how to avoid those same mistakes. In other words, we want to be connected, we want to be flexible, and of course, centralized so that we have some efficiencies in all of that sort of scenario. And that's sort of I guess you could say that about many cloud-based document management systems. The difference here is that Autodesk Docs is a project-focused document management system, right? So building a road, highway, whatever the AEC project is, if you will. So taking a look at the platform in just a high level, it allows us to share files on a single connected document management platform. So as team members are added, they get access to that particular set of data. And just like way permissions are vetted internally, if you will, we can do that for all project team members, whether we're internally or externally, right? Because now the data's in the cloud. So versioning, approvals, we'll get into some of the details, but that's the basic idea with Docs. A little history. It's not too old, but much of the technology was acquired or developed over the past 5 or 6 years, and Autodesk Docs is just simply the merger of all of that technology. If you are familiar with BIM 360 Docs, this is sort of the evolution of that. And there is some crossover, but that's kind of where most of this started several years ago. The platform is unlimited, and from a drawing file, we support more than 40 different file types. We also support Office files, so Excel's files, Word documents, etc., PDFs for cut sheets and so forth. We can throw all of that up in there because it's project data. So let's take a look at the digital review real quick. Now, I guess I should say before I'm trying to get the PowerPoint out of the way so I can kind of jump into some of the live demonstration here real quick. So in the digital review, we can create markups, we can create issues. And again, because it's all in this cloud platform, I can see who looked at what, who created what issue, who made what markup. And the markups can be private or shared, we'll see that. And then ultimately, we can get an audit trail for the review process. Somebody makes a drawing, somebody reviews it, somebody makes a markup, creates an issue out of it. The issue gets addressed. Maybe there's another revision. Maybe there's another markup, right? So that process can repeat itself until the drawing is as intended. So here, let me go and jump into some of this initial technology, if you will. So we'll take a look at viewing files and creating some markups and comparing versions. So let me jump back over into here and into my actual files. So actually, let me go all the way out to the beginning. So when you join or browse to the default website, which is acc.autodesk.com, it automatically shows you all of the projects that you are connected to. Now you have to be invited to a project. They're just not open to everybody. In fact, the platform is what I would consider a zero trust platform, unless you're explicitly given access to a project or even a folder or any particular task or Any functionality in the platform, it has to be given to you. There's no assumptions of free access, if you will. So I'm going to work in this docs only sample project. And let me jump over to the docs module. Now, incidentally, you can see that there are several modules here as part of the Construction Cloud platform. We're focusing on the docs module today. On the left-hand side, there are several functions that we can do with docs. I'm on the Files tab right now. And as it presents itself, it looks very similar to Windows Explorer. Some key differences, though. First, I can set permissions on a company, a role, or even an individual user. Generally, we assign core permissions based on company, because that way, if a company comes or goes, or maybe we switch hands on, so there's some sort of handover on the project, it's real easy to assign new companies and take companies off as things change or evolve on a project. But either way, we've got all sorts of options when it comes to permissions. So let's take a look at viewing a file. So here I've got a drawing in my root folder. And I just simply clicked it. It's a hyperlink, and it's going to open it up here in my browser. Now, currently, I'm just looking at the model space. If I come to this top left edge, I can see I've got my 2D view, and I've also got my layouts. So I can switch to a particular layout and see that presented on a sheet. This particular file doesn't have a 3D view because everything was drawn two-dimensionally in a plane, if you will. So we've got some other things in here. I can turn layers on and off, viewpoints that were saved in the drawing, some content that's in the file. Now, in this simple AutoCAD file, right, there's nothing really fancy there, and then markups. So as we add markups to this, we could see those populated in this list. Slide this out of the way. I've got some controls up here in the upper right. If I had another version of this, which I do, I've got a version 2, I can compare those versions. So if I click compare, it defaults to document A being the current version, and then I can go back and say version 1. So what's the difference? And what am I comparing? So we'll just compare the 2D view to 2D view, see what's different. And it looks like I moved it and shifted it and put a rectangle around it. So is the content different? Visually, yeah, but that's okay. Let me exit out of that for a moment. So that's the compare. Oops, I didn't mean to get out of the drawing. I got too far ahead of myself. If I want to, let's see, I can also share this. I can print it. I could download it, again, based on permissions. So lots of options there when it comes to viewing the file. Again, in the browser, no CAD installed, just looking at a drawing file. Before I jump out of this viewer, on the left-hand side, right-hand side, we have all of our markup tools. So as an example, I could say, highlight something, and I've got, by default, it's a personal markup, but if I publish it, then it becomes a public markup. And maybe I'll put some text here. And I can change the size of the text. Maybe I don't need it to be that big. And red's fine. So let's say add reference callouts. Right, so I just made a quick little markup. This one's public, this one's private. Let's go ahead and publish that one too. And now when I go to my markups, you can see that those are both now public markups. All right, so let's close out of that. If I had some intelligence, if we had a Revit model per se, there was windows and doors, we can get properties when we pick on things. I can get properties of that polyline, but it's not as, so I always say glamorous as finding information about a door manufacturer and site type and size and all that sort of thing. But even as simple as a polyline, we get some data out of that. So that was properties. I can measure. So if I want to make sure things are the right size, when I click measure, I get some tools. I'll just do a distance. And again, we get some snaps just like we would in the AutoCAD. So pick, and then this is a model space, so that's giving me a distance. If this were a layout, I could do the same thing. I might have to calibrate it depending on the scale bar, right? Because everything's going to have a different scaled view. But pretty easy to do some simple measurements. All right, so that's sort of the view and review. I feel like I was missing something here. Oh, and I did compare. Yeah, so a little bit of everything. Now, something let me go back to is the fact that as we start to create issues and reviews, which I'll get to in a minute, all of those things can get displayed on what we call an insight module, and this comes for free out of the box, if you will. Sort of a dashboard of sorts for the different types of things that you're looking for on a given project. So issues, markups, submittals, etc. So currently, I had one back in February that never got addressed. So it's really easy to see that I missed that over 6 months ago. If I had added an address to the project, it would show me both a map and the weather, right? So if you're thinking about this from a more holistic or top level view, right, this insight allows us at a dashboard level to see what's going on. And you can customize this dashboard. There's all sorts of types of cards that you can add to this, if you will. So design issue trend, issues, approvals, right? There's all sorts of intelligence we can essentially get out to. We can also connect to external services. So maybe you've got a construction webcam, if you will. Maybe you've got maybe we're doing drone flights, right? So any of these three third-party services, we can certainly add them to our dashboard. And there's tons here. You can pick and choose based on the type of thing that you're looking for, maybe coordination, maybe submittals, right? So I've got different cards. You simply check it off. I'll just add this one. It adds the card, and of course, yeah, I would then have to configure the card, based on whatever project data is in that particular platform. All right, so let me go back to Docs. So that's sort of the intro. Yeah, we'll leave that page. And I want to touch on a couple of things here back in the files area. I have noticed it's more than just files and folders. I've got one folder here that's got sort of a check mark next to it, verified, if you will. When we create files in the system, whether we drag and drop them into the browser or we do it through our applications, which we'll get to that as well, we can make sure the files conform to a file naming standard. And when those files, so in this particular case, this folder requires files to match that standard. And if they don't, they get put into what's called a holding area. And I can then address file naming for, again, see they're all in that ISO folder. So lots of flexibility there on not only just creating files, but how we manage files. Now, in this case, I've got an architectural folder. I've got a sub-consultant that I'm working with, right? So essentially, this isn't our own hub, if you will, of data. This could be anyone that's working on the team as a whole for the project. So now, again, I don't necessarily have access to everybody's data, but now we're all working together in a single platform. All right. So the anytime, anywhere aspect of this is simply doing the same thing, but from a mobile device. What does that mean? So essentially the same information, but with access, from a laptop or even a tablet for that matter. Same idea, same concepts, but now we're just doing it with, maybe I'm on site somewhere and we're doing like a concept plan, like the owner has come out and said, hey, we're going to tear down this building and we're going to put up this rec center for the kids or something. I don't know, I'm making up stuff here, right? But when I've got my tablet, I can still interact and create my project data. So what does that look like? So I'm actually connecting my tablet here for a moment. There we go. I just got to put in this number. There we go. Pairing my screen to this. There it goes. Okay, perfect. And so here's the application. You can see, again, the same project list. Now, by default, the data is not certainly local to my tablet. But you can see all I've got to do is click on one of these. So with my finger, right, instead of my mouse, we're going to click on that, and now it's going to sync that data to my tablet. So this will take a moment. I tried not to have a big project so that it wouldn't take too long. There we go. Just like that, I now have that project on my device. Now at the bottom, depending on, again, those modules that you have access to, certain things will be visible, so certain things will not. So I'm going to go to the files area down there at the bottom. And there's nothing here that's any different than what we saw before. So I can click on project files and it's the exact same information. Now the structure is here, but the files aren't completely here as well. So if I were, let's go to that tables file, right? I could tell it to download that file. So now it's downloaded, it's active on my tablet. I can click that file and now I can see that same exact thing on my tablet. I can go to my different views like I did inside of the browser at my workstation. Again, same idea, nothing super fancy here. But I can do similar tasks. What's nice, of course, is if I am on site, I could go to photos and attach photos to a drawing, and now I've got context. I can attach those photos to both the markup and the issues. So now we're starting to connect the dots on the data, right? It's not just a drawing, but now there's context to why I'm doing the drawing. That's what I want to do. Yeah, that's probably what I wanted to show here. So it's the same basic idea, but now we're just inside of a mobile device. So here we'll get rid of that for a moment. And I guess the one thing that I didn't mention is I made a note there about automated file locking. Obviously, I'm not going to edit on my tablet. That would be a little tough to do. But I could certainly do some editing on my laptop, my workstation laptop, right? So what does that look like? Trying to understand if I talked about that here. I want to address it here under file exchange. So with file exchange, we're basically allowing this concept of this easy access, but for everyone, right? I'm sort of repeating myself at this point. So I might call it file exchange. Really what we're saying is, hey, we're just all one big team, and let's act like one big team. It's just in one place now. So I'll dive into some of the access aspects. We'll look at notifications, and I'll look at desktop connector. So let's jump into the browser here. So I briefly mentioned permissions, right? So at the top level, project files, we have all these different folders. If I look at the permissions at the top level, I can see that, I'm managing the whole project. That's fine. Every project has to have a project administrator, and they have access to the entire project. Their role is, of course, to manage the project. Below this, if I go to the architectural, I can see I've added the whoever's been classified as an architectural role, and I've added the architecture company as well. So I can see those folks there. Now, we have one particular individual there that is listed twice. So what permissions does that individual actually get? So here's a situation where the highest or the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The more you can modify, that permission would win. So the create only is trumped beard. And what are the options, by the way? So view, create, edit, and manage. And there's some sub-steps there depending on the category. But view is the lowest or the most restrictive and manages the unrestricted permissions. And so the most permissions, right, happen at the bottom of the list. So easy to assign that. I can do that by adding, when I add an individual, or in this case, when I did it as the role. What's the other thing I wanted to mention? I got sidetracked in my brain there. Oh, notifications, that's right. So how do we get notified? Well, let's say Coach Beard made some revisions to one of the drawings. How would I even know that unless I'm watching all these versions? I check in every day and just really be proactive about it. Well, again, cloud-based environment, we can get notifications. How do we get those notifications? We can subscribe to a particular folder. As a change is made, I get an email. Hey, user X revised a file in this folder. Now, if I didn't want to see all of those emails or notifications, we do have an audit trail for the project that shows you all those interactions. But that's sort of a jumbled mess, right? Because it's a complete log of everybody doing everything. If I just wanted to know when the architecturals were being updated, right, I would just subscribe to that folder. Easy to do there. Lastly, this desktop connector, right? So the architect is creating content. How is he doing that? Clearly, we're not using AutoCAD in the web, or are we? Well, first, let me go through the desktop connector. So the desktop connector is something that sits in your system tray. And what this does is not much different from what you're used to with Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox. So in a file explorer, for instance, if I were to go, wait, let me make sure I'm signed in as the right person. I'm signed in as coach. Let me actually sign out. It's going to make me quit AutoCAD. That's fine. So we'll go ahead and sign in as me. Type it too fast. And you can see I've now got a drive there. Now that drive shows up in AutoCAD as well. So let me go ahead and launch AutoCAD. So instead of it being your network drive letter, P or T or whatever your file drive would be, we can see that. All right, so I'm waiting for it to populate. So let me see if there's any questions here while I'm waiting for this. Oh, good question. Let's pop that out so I can read a little better. Are the dashboards, okay, so this is going back to that one section for the insight. Are the dashboards per project, or can an individual see all of their projects in one dashboard? Good question. So for everyone except for one role, they are per project. If we give someone an executive role, they can see all the projects in a single dashboard. So we can sum all of the issues, sum all of the markups, if you will, into a single dashboard. If I take a look at my members here, and let's pick me, for instance. I need to scroll some of this stuff out of the way. So what the role that would allow sort of corporate overview, if you will, is the executive role. As soon as you assign that person, they're expected to not be in the nitty gritty of the fine-grained changes in a file, but okay, what's the status of all my projects? Are they on target for time? Are they over budget? Right? Are we behind on our issues and RFIs? Where the heck are we at? From an overall project health. So that executive role is sort of that deal. Now, I can't. What's the word I'm looking for? I've not had much success if I'm both a common user and an executive user, but you can do that. So hopefully that answers your question, Timothy. Oops. All right, let's go back to, okay, there we go, perfect. So now when I go into my project, let's switch some I had to refresh this here. So there's my project files. And again, everything looks exactly as it did as we saw in the browser. Now, of course, I'm not seeing the PDFs because I'm not going to open a PDF in AutoCAD. But if I go to the architectural, right, so there's all those things in there as well. And if I go into a file, right now I'm working on that file. What happens is it's checking to see what's cached locally. If it's not current, then it simply puts it in a hidden location, but the file that I'm working on is actually physically on my machine. So if I make a change, whatever that change is, the file is saved locally, and then in the background, that desktop connector will synchronize that up to the cloud. So let's do a really fantastic revision here. Put a little rectangle in there. I don't know, whatever. Maybe I wanted to put a hatch. Let's get funky. Perfect. That's our change on the sheet. Go to save. I'm going to save the changes. And if I get there fast enough, there's a pending actions. Oh, it's already done. So it uploads the file and gives me a new version. So if I take a look in the cloud, let's go to the files. I was in the architectural. Right, so it's already pushed up a version 2 there. Now, something that's not necessarily apparent in that process, let me go back into that file, is it actually does lock it when I'm editing it. So let's open it one more time. And just give it a brief moment. What actually happened in the background is in those pending actions, it sent a lock notification. It's already done. I missed it. But if I go look at the cloud, there's a lock. I can see who locked it and when. So again, there's not, I guess in the traditional sense of data management, that would be sort of a checkout. So the checkout's automatic and check in, if you will, when I save. going to just not save this time. Actually, here, let's get rid of my nonsense. Save that. Okay. Let's check the question panel, see if we got any questions. Okay, perfect. We're still good. Yeah, let me refresh. That should, okay, there we go. Now this file is locked. That's fine. If I go to, I got my meeting stuff out of the way. Notice I have the sheet set manager open. Those files are part of the sheet set. The sheet set is in the cloud as well. So I could easily open it there. So I could double click on the drawing. And again, just like browsing on the left-hand side there, I'm doing it through the sheet set manager. No difference. It's just we're pulling the data from the cloud. Now we're project centric in this case, right? So the data is all around the project. So anything that relates to the project is in this parent folder. Okay. I think there we are. So what are we doing here? We're essentially getting rid of the corporate firewall. We're getting rid of that restriction of I don't want that company on my internal network. So we're putting that content in a trusted location and granting access, right? That's the cloud platform. Zero trust, only giving you access to what you need to do, right? Whether if you're a content creator, right, you're in CAD all day, then we're going to give you more access. If you're a manager and you're reviewing, well, then you don't need to necessarily create content or upload, but you do need to mark up and add comments and all that sort of stuff. And because now that we're in the cloud, it's anywhere, anytime, any place. Laptop, mobile device, even your phone. And then the data exchange, right? That's ultimately what's happening here at the bottom of this. I guess we can go ahead and wrap up there.